So, in this video, I'm gonna just go off the top of my head, talk about everything that I know about NE, and see where we end this video at. I'm not sure how long this is gonna be, but I'm gonna share everything that I know and try to make it as crystal clear to you as what and as to what NE is, if you're struggling to identify if you have NE. So first and foremost, we have to address the subject and the object dynamic. The subject is you, and the object is everything outside of you, right? And so the way that Jung described these things was on two different polarities, right? The polarities of the inner world and the polarity of the outer world. And so that's the first distinction that you have to make, right? Is your intuition. When we're talking about extroverted intuition, extrovert means to turn outwards, introvert means to turn inwards. So, is your intuition focused on the outer world, or is your intuition focused on the inner world? Because if it's focused on the inner world, then you have NI. If it's focused on the outer world, then you have NE. This is also associated with abstraction. The reason why it's associated with abstraction is because of the fact that since NE is an outer process, you are basically, your intuition is in the depths of the unknown. So every time, intuition just means a sense of knowing, understanding something without knowing why, pretty much. It's like you just get it, it just clicks. And a lot of intuition is tied to your sensing functions, which I'll talk about in another video. But your knowing of something, right, is to the objective factor, which means that, and because it is outwards and it turns outwards, that's where all of the possibilities stem from. The possibilities stem from your imagination, your mind, and within your mind, the mind is not limited to the physical reality, right? It's not limited to that. It's imaginative. It can expand beyond what one could conceive of, which is why lots of times an NE Dom could have very good ideas or also very bad ideas, because the ideas are ideas in of itself. They're constantly generating, constantly coming up with different things, and constantly making connections to things that they've experienced, right? So the thing is that this is why it's extroverted. I mean, this is why it's extroverted, abstract, and so on and so forth. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have when it comes to NE is that just because you're NE dominant, you're going to speak in a super abstract way, which isn't necessarily the case, right? Because technically, I look at more of how do you interact in the world, what are you doing in your day to day, and how is your NE manifesting? Like, if you tell me that somebody has had multiple businesses, if you tell me somebody has had multiple jobs, if you tell me somebody has had, and it's because they're bored. You see, NE is connected to novelty, right? And it's funny because novelty is actually connected to dopamine. So the anticipation of something new is actually what sparks dopamine. And a lot of the times when you have ADHD, I'm veering off, but a lot of people that typically are NE dominants tend to have ADHD. This is something that I've read and I've seen, and so on and so forth. And a lot of the times when you have ADHD, it's basically a lack of being able to stimulate your brain because of a lack of dopamine, right? But like, this is why they move from one thing to one thing. They jump because they're basically, their attention span they're like getting bored, and then they start to like want to get this new thing and this other thing and this other thing, and then that's like basically dopamine receptors kicking in. And when they're exposed to the novelty, it almost feels like this is why they do it, because they're basically supplementing for that lack of dopamine. And this is what a lot of NE DOMs tend to do. Now, is this a fact that NE DOMs have have ADHD or whatever? I don't know, but I do know that if you are an extroverted intuitive, it's very easy to see why you can be abstract. You're always in the realm of possibilities. I think I've already explained that. But you're in the realm of possibilities because you are coming from your imagination. And everything is on two different polarities. And the reason why most people don't seem to understand how NE really works is because they keep only thinking that it's about ideas, and they keep on. I associate NE with the color yellow, and the reason why I associate it with the color yellow is because yellow to me represents novelty. So if you see someone and you think to yourself that this person seems like they have yellow aura, then most likely they're an EDOM. Now this also depends on if you think if you think in aura. Um, so let's see. I think if you have any if you're any dominant, one of the things that you should really focus on and prioritize is, at least to me, right, is learning skills that give you that novelty but allow you to stay focused. So I think any DOMs would be great copywriters because they have to write for a multitude of different businesses. And even though the skill set of copywriting isn't new, it's the same thing all the time. The exposure to new businesses and having to put themselves in that business's shoes, to me, is what will stimulate the mind, stimulate them, and allow them to enter into that world of imagination that nobody else can see. You know, yeah, so I think ultimately there's that. Now, there are some pitfalls of any. Like, the biggest pitfall of any is the fact that it's hard to focus and concentrate on anything that you want in life because you'll constantly keep wanting to change as soon as you get bored, as soon as you get stimulated. This is how I was as a kid. When I was a kid, my mom used to buy me games. I'd beat the games, and then I'd get bored, and then I'd need a new game. It was hard for me to stay focused on video games a lot of times because of how much work it took to sit still and do it, right, and play it. And so, like, to me, novelty came from going out and riding my bike with my friends, and then, I don't know, not just riding my bike, but like playing a sport, you know, doing a whole bunch of different things, meeting new people, understanding new people, learning new things, learning new concepts. For the longest time, I stopped focusing on. For the longest time, I didn't read books because I felt like, what is a book going to teach me that I can't learn through experience? And I've learned a lot of things through experience. So yeah, NE is about novelty. NE is concerned with the possibilities. NE allows you to see into the realm that not a lot of people can see because it's outwards, and a lot of the times it's not even that you're seeing something, because half the times when you come up with this stuff, you don't even know yourself. It just pops out. I like to say that the ideas that we have, you could tell if you're high NE Dom because the ideas that you have tend to feel like they're not from you, but they're from some type of other world that is basically taking those ideas and using you as a filter to bring that idea out into the world. And you see this constantly. It's constantly happening all the time. And also your brain feels like it's never steady. It's always moving. You're seeing so many things, so many different so many different things. And I also think that because NE is connected to external stimuli, because it's connected to whatever, basically the NE really activates in the external stimuli, like when something basically triggers your NE. This is why, for example, when I'm talking to my camera, it's way harder to talk to a camera than if I'm talking to other people. Because the moment somebody tells me something, or the moment somebody says something to me, it's easy for me to just take what they said and just come up with something on the spot. Because I see all these, I make all these connections in my head. And then it's like if somebody were to ask me, hey, Dre, how do you think AI is going to impact society? It's so easy for me to make connections. I could talk about communication. I could talk about the heightened increase in introversion. I could talk about how extroverts are going to be, like, the introverts are technically going to be at an advantage, but extroverts are going to be an advantage too. And it impacts both people in a good way. I could talk about you know, just so many societal issues about this subject just from somebody asking me that, and then make connections to, you know, like right now we need a modern philosopher who can talk about AI, sort of like how people had Nietzsche back in the day when he was talking about God and religion and all this other stuff. I think AI is going to impact people's moral values. You know, you're going to see it impacted in a good way and also in a bad way. Some people are going to be trying to figure out how to get rich, and they're going to try to like use AI to create programs that can hack into people's computers. And then there's going to be some people who are not doing that. You know, there's going to be some people who are using it to understand themselves more. I've already seen this trend happening, right? So, yeah, I think, you know, when you have any, you talk in theories, you talk about the what if. You're basically like a scientist, even if you're not a scientist. So this is the real way to understand extroverted intuition, right? And this is also why you can think you're an introvert. This is an internal process that happens within you. You are stimulated by the object. The object doesn't have to be a person. The object is anything that is novel that is outside of you. The object can be getting a new phone, getting a new computer, reading a blog, reading a book, watching a video. Stimulation. The main thing, oh, this is something I should have mentioned. The main thing is the intent behind what you're doing. See, you can be at home by yourself and just sitting down doing absolutely nothing but watching TV. And that doesn't have to be an introverted function. I mean, like an introverted behavior. That can be extroverted. It depends on your intent. So intent is very important, and intent needs to be introduced more into this. Um, yeah, so I think I've said mostly everything that I wanted to say about NE, about how extroverted intuition works, how it makes connections. Well, it makes connections like a web. Um, it doesn't really go too crazy about like learning every single thing, because it learns until it. I think it, at least for me, I learn until I get bored. Like I need to like learn. I do need to learn everything, but it's also like it's the curiosity of what I might not know, right? So it's like, and it always. I think you need to also understand the difference between this and TI, right? TI is more about understanding. Like you guys might say that this is two different functions, but I think the intent can be misaligned, or not misaligned, but misconfused, because you could think that you're doing an NE action when you're really doing a TI action. You know, people say that NE is not action, but you get what I'm saying. You could think that you're doing a TI action when you're doing an NE action. It's based off of the intent. So if you're trying to understand the underlying meanings and you're trying to basically deconstruct something and really understand like if this then that, right? Like it's TI is more concerned with deep understanding and breaking down of things to create a logical system and a logical structure to the subject. Now people try to say that TI is all objective, and it's not. It's a subjective function, right? NE is about curiosity. NE is about what if. So NE, somebody with TI might be like, do I fully understand this? Let me just like dig into this a little bit more. You know, if this happens, then this means this. If this happens, then this means this. NE is more about what if there's more? What if you can see it this way, or what if I'm missing something? What if I'm not looking at it from this perspective? What if I'm not? And now that curiosity leads you to want to do a search or want to research or want to understand. Whereas TI is more like, what do I understand already? What do I know? What don't I know? You know, it's like, does this make sense? Does this fit here? Do I need to read more of this? It's more like, again, internal questioning of like what you don't know. And NE is more like, creating possibilities in your imagination of what if I don't know. They're very different. Like it seems similar, but they're very different. All right. Yeah, I've rambled for a little bit. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Leave a comment. If there's something I didn't answer, let me know as well. And if you want to join the group, I have a group called Mind Alchemy where I talk about this. And I'm going to basically what I'm doing is I'm interested in typology. I'm interested in visualization. I'm interested in action, like the science of action. I'm interested in neurotransmitters and stuff like that. And I just created a Discord where I'm going to talk about all of this. I'm going to talk about the difference between Jung's work and Linda Barron's work and Dario Nardi's work, and see how they all connect, and also see how they're all different, and point out the differences, because everybody has different interpretations of this stuff, and it's time to clear this up and really explain to people what this actually means, and clear it up for myself as well. So if you want to see more videos like this, if you want to join a group or a community of people just like you, then join the Discord group that will be in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.